Paul, I really appreciate you being able to sit down with me tonight. Now, last week when Monday Night Raw ended, it appeared that you and your client, Brock Lesnar and yourself have severed your business ties. Where do you and Brock Lesnar stand right now?
I don't know. Brock Lesnar has disconnected his phone number, and I've tried to reach him through intermediaries, and I don't know where we stand.
So you've not spoken to Brock Lesnar at all since last week?
No.
Okay. Well, Paul...
And not that I haven't wanted to, but obviously he doesn't want to take my phone call.
Paul, I understand.
You don't have a problem with this, guys, to be honest. Brock's not going to like this. I mean, I'm out here talking in public about this. This is kind of like a private matter. It's just going to piss him off more.
Oh, we can go from your point of view if you like. I mean, it seemed abundantly clear last week that Brock Lesnar does not consider you his friend, that you're his employee. Do you consider Brock Lesnar?
You're really enjoying this, aren't you? Like I have this coming. Like
No.
I deserve this.
Paul, I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what exactly happened between you and Brock.
So am I.
So do you consider Brock Lesnar a friend of yours?
Yes, I do. And my children consider his children to be their friends. I don't want anybody close to my family. He certainly doesn't want anybody close to his family. This is not how I envisioned it ending. We always, since the beginning, we've always talked about riding off into the sunset together. The Universal Championship over one shoulder, the UFC title over the other, and me standing behind him, proclaiming to the world the reigning, defending.
Paul, at this point in Brock Lesnar's career, do you think that he still needs Paul Heyman? Paul, do you want to take a minute?
Come on. Do it. Just do it. Do your job.
You spent a lot of time here. Hypothetically, if Brock Lesnar was not around, is there anybody else here that maybe you have your eye on as a potential client?
Wouldn't that question be inconceivable a week ago? Wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be?
Sure.
This whole situation is inconceivable to me. How can I just go with somebody else? Just interchangeable?
Okay, well, SummerSlam, this is my final question to you. Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship, who's going to walk away the winner?
I've known Brock Lesnar for 16 years. I've been through every up and down that he has accomplished and that he has suffered. And I've never seen Brock Lesnar like this. I've never seen him more driven. I've never seen him more focused. And I know this isn't a word we like to use around here. I've never seen him more violent. Against this Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns doesn't stand a chance.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 118 of the Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast. It is Thursday, August 9th, 2018. It's the 19th anniversary of Y2J, Chris Jericho, making his WWE debut, at the time WWF debut, at the Rosemont Horizon at the Allstate Arena. And for those who don't know, tearing out the fourth wall here. Gotta get that punk drop like the radio bits. Now, I hear that. I want to give shout out to Hoodie because he uses breaking down the fourth wall on his bits on the show. So shout out for Hoodie for that. Anyways, yeah, Rosemont Horizon, Jericho's debut. It was also the first wrestling show I went to as a fan. So August 9th, 1999. brings us all the way here to 2018, where we have our own podcasts and websites and all the minutia that goes on with this stuff, being a wrestling fan. And it's a lot of fun. My name is Josh Lopez. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Notorious Joshy. I'm alongside my big bro, Adam Daley. What's going on, my man?
Josh, what's up? So, like, this is one of those days in wrestling history where it's like you remember where you were at when, right? Like Jericho's debut in WWE and WWF at the time. That was one of those moments. Like you'll always remember like what you were doing, when you were doing it, where you were at, who you were with, that kind of stuff. You were fortunate enough to be there. That was awesome. That's awesome. I was working like a shitty college job, and somebody came up to where I was working. This is an actual true story. I was running a batting cages for the summer. Whatever. I was a baseball player, so it was easy, and I sat there and hit all day for free, so it helped me out for the summer leagues I was in. Whatever. Don't judge me. But this dude I know came up to – I was working, whatever. I don't even remember what time we closed up, maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock. It was summertime. But he came up like around 7 o'clock. He's like, hey, man, like, Raw's the night that clock's going off. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm fired up. I just wasn't – I didn't have a computer at the time. And I know that's crazy to think in August 9th, 1999, I did not have a computer. I was still living at home with my mother. It was just something that, something we didn't invest in. It just, and you look at today how there's kids, Christ, my daughter needs a computer for school. But, that's neither here nor there. But so my dude comes up and he's like, hey, man, I heard that it's supposed to be Jericho tonight on Raw. And Jericho being, my favorite wrestler. I was like, what? I shut that shit down so quick, dude. Like, it was legit. I shut it down like 2 or 3 hours early. I don't know what. I didn't really give a fuck either. Apologize for the language there, guys. But, yeah, it was like I wasn't missing this. I was so afraid that the counter was going to go off like right at the beginning of the show. So it was like, you know what, I got to be there for the beginning and whatever. So, yeah. So Chris Jericho might have cost, I think, the Beaver County YMCA some money that year. But it's whatever. It probably didn't cost them that much, though. It's not like anybody ever really used the damn things.
Yeah, I was one of those 5-year-old little kids in the crowd chanting, Waukee, Waukee, Waukee. And by the way, I didn't know Jericho beforehand because I didn't watch WCW in 98 or 97. I started watching wrestling like towards the end of 98. So I didn't really understand what's going on with WCW, the war, and all this shit. Hey, I'm like 4 or 5 years old.
Right, yeah, no. See, Jericho was the first guy I clung to after I took like a hiatus, and like I was make the joke. It's good. I think it's good for everybody to take a hiatus once in a while from wrestling. Like because when you go back, it's almost like smoking weed. When you go back, it's a lot better again. You remember why you loved it in the first place. But it's for me. I was in a period where I didn't watch wrestling for maybe like a year and a half. And it just, I don't know, nothing was really clicking with me. And like you know how it is, brother. If you stop watching for a minute and you feel totally out of it. It's sometimes harder to get back in, But one of my buddies just kept on me about, the whole NWO angle and like everything that was going on. And then the dude that I just really, really started, I still always watched Triple H from afar, even when I really wasn't watching, full time. But I think at the time WWF was burying him because of the whole Madison Square Madison Square Garden thing. But yeah, so Jericho was like just the guy that I clung to. So it was cool to see that excitement and the way that they brought him into the company. And yeah, man, I'll never forget that night ever. Just like how quick like this dude came up and was like, yeah, dude, it's like Jericho. It's definitely Jericho. And I was like, how do you know this? He's like, well, because the internet told me. I was like, give me fucking 5 minutes. I fucking had everything closed up, locked up, shut down. I didn't give a shit, man. I was not missing Chris Jericho's debut in WWF. But yeah, it was. I don't know, man. It was one of those where I don't know. Let me ask you this question. It's rare. It's rarefied air when somebody lives up to the hype that's presented in front of them. Especially when it comes to a slow burning build up. And it's a brand new character. It's not like it's a return. I mean, yes, people know because there was that the Monday Night Wars were going on and everything, but it's rare that we get that not the payoff, but the surprise, that feeling of, we don't get these moments as much anymore. And I don't know, we could blame everything from the internet to just watching it long enough to knowing to when they're coming or, whatever it can be. But I don't know, man, where would you put this in as far as in your lifetime? in those like quote unquote classic moments, those moments where you'll always remember. It's easier for you because you were there, but you're a little younger though, so maybe not as. But I mean, I remember every little detail of that night, like just the anticipation, waiting for the clock to go off, kind of like, all right, when are they playing it for? And just, every time they would show it, just, getting more and more excited just to see what they could do. It was so cool, man. It was like, as a wrestling fan, it was such a cool feeling to be excited. And, and I think that we still can. It's just people ruin it for themselves with the internet. But I don't know, Josh, will we ever have something that lives up to that kind of hype again, where we could have that kind of debut? Or, will we ever be able to even see something that quasi replicates this?
Let me wrap up the first part about seeing the debut live, because that was the first time I thought I was going to have a seizure, because they had the green, the blue lights flashing all over the place, and it got dark, fireworks, and I was like, once I heard the song, and then everybody's switching to the stage, right? That was like the first one. I was like, oh, what's happening? Because I obviously just there, and I was obviously young, trying to get to know what storylines are and this and that. I haven't seen it like as far as like a debut making that type of impact, because there's the NXT factor of the developmental you see on the network. You have the internet, of course, spoiling stuff on Twitter or dirt sheets, wherever you read. I didn't have that moment. I mean, the only way I can see something that's a groundbreaking surprise is on a return. Because I don't think a debut would have the same feeling, because everybody's building it up as the debut. It's not, oh, somebody showed up on Raw. It's, oh, we have the anticipation. Even if WWE doesn't even promote it, somebody loses that takeover. Everyone's like, oh, that means they're going to the main roster the next night. So that already takes you out of that special moment. So I don't see it happening unless it's a return for somebody who's in the past.
I can see that. I you know what, man? And there's, like you said, there's return moments. Like Triple H's return after injury was one that, it's hard to parallel that as well. You know what I mean? Like there's, for some reason, the night of the Nexus, it will still always just, I don't know. And I know it was short lived, and it's just, unfortunately, just a lot of things were mishandled. And there was a lot of just things out of their hands too. So it kind of fell apart. But I just remember how like wow, this could be something like special, and there's one more that man, it just slipped my mind.
I mean, people could put the John Cena return if they want, because they didn't expect him to be back that soon from that injury.
I called it that day to my room. The dude I was living with at the time, I said, it's going to end up being Cena. And he was like, dude, you need to do back for like 3 more months. I was like, okay. It's a weird feeling.
And it's crazy, a lot of the returns more come from injury, unfortunately. Edge, when he returned to the Rumble a couple years later, that was really cool. Even The Rock, when they made the announcement that he was hosting WrestleMania that year in Atlanta, and they're like, who's hosting WrestleMania? And everybody's like, don't make it Justin Bieber. Don't make it Justin Bieber.
That was the biggest troll job thing ever, too. It's like he was the easiest clickbait to use as troll. Right. Hey, oh, man. Biebs. The Biebs.
So, that's an interesting question. As far as like debuts, who's lived up or had that type of an impact, I would put Kevin Owens there, but it's still kind of early in a way. It's crazy to think that he debuted on Raw 3 years ago, and now he's going to have a chance to get the Money in the Bank briefcase at SummerSlam. So it's all about context. I mean, if you want to look at a slow burn and maybe things that you didn't expect for a performer that reached that type of ceiling, I mean, you could put Christian there. You could put Punk there if you want. You could put Bryan. There's different things to look at. Hell, even The Miz. I'll say this, though. For a homegrown talent to grow to where he is now, it's probably the most biggest impact I've seen in the business besides Jericho or Kurt Angle coming from the Olympics and doing what he did in WWE before he left. So
I think and who slipped my mind was when AJ Styles debuted at the Royal Rumble. That was special.
Yeah,
and There's a ton that we're leaving out, guys. Like, when Hogan first came back from WCW and they tried running that, and granted that angle fizzled out quick, but there was that initial, but initially Bischoff, Goldberg. I mean, there were a lot of other ones too in there. But there's certain ones that will always stick out to me. Like, and Styles is another one. I'll admit, Styles is another one that I remember watching it on a tiny little screen and everything, the living conditions that we were in at the time. And yeah, man, it's crazy how when you watch this stuff long enough and when you're passionate about it for the right reasons, you do remember you always have those when they show highlights. It'll take you back, and I think that's why we watch, right? I mean, it's not as much to complain. It's to have that memory of. So that when we're older, I'm not going to make it to 70, so let me change this joke up. When I'm a 60-year-old man and dementia's already kicked in, I'll have little things that, I'll probably still be watching wrestling, slobbering on myself, wearing a diaper. Nothing much that's different from today, just a lot more gray hair.
Right. It's really interesting with debuts and returns. I know people didn't like the WrestleMania. The Shane McMahon return in Detroit a couple years ago during that segment with Vince and Stephanie. I thought that was really big.
Oh, I thought it was huge. Yeah, that's and I forgot about that one. That was a huge one.
There are people about Shane coming back.
Yeah, that's. So tearing down the fourth wall, like you just said, I kind of quit with dirt sheet stuff. Once about 2 months after Sam and I started doing like the video show, I was like, I can't deal with any more like reading like dirt sheet stuff anymore. It was just too much for me, man. So realistically, like everything from like 2015 on was any of the shows I did were just always like me winging it and shit. I just didn't care enough to read the dirt sheets. I just felt like it was making a bunch of people on the internet think that they were smarter than what they really were, and everybody just kept missing because they just weren't watching the story, So I think that's why I got, when Styles debuted, I was still, even though I knew it was rumored, like because we would talk about it on the shows, I didn't really know that, or if somebody's making a comeback or, that kind of stuff. I like being left in the dark, man. It's been more fun. And it's a lot more fun. There's a better payoff too when I watch it with my daughter too. Granted, me and Sam being adults aside, it's I don't like knowing the end of Infinity War before I see it, even though I kind of know the end. But I still want to see it played out first before everybody on Twitter spoils it for me. Fortunately, I did watch Infinity War, and I'm going to spoil it for everyone, right? Nah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, so I can't. I'm too weird to spoil a guy, but yeah, man. I think that's really what it really comes down to is that I think you're right. I don't know if we're really going to have, and maybe I'm absolutely probably playing a little bit of the Homer card here with Jericho because he is in my Mount Rushmore, if not, like him and Punk are like my top two. I don't even like to actually put any of my Mount Rushmore above one another. They're on one level playing field, But so maybe I'm playing favorites. There's very few moments in wrestling history that I remember more vividly than this one. And granted, it's because I've watched it thousands of times, probably 1,004. But that's just kind of where I'm at with the Jericho debut.
And I'm pretty sure people are yelling at us right now saying, what about Kenny Omega? What about CM Punk coming back? Well, as much as I would like to see Kenny Omega come to WWE, is he really going to have that groundbreaking surprise like Jericho had to the point where you're not even looking forward to the actual surprise of him debuting? You're waiting for him to pop into WWE to nitpick how he's being presented in the company. Well, and Punk is a whole nother thing because as a Punk fan, I've got to the point where it's not that I don't want to see CM Punk back, but it's not my hill to die. I'm not thinking about it every day when wrestling topics come up. Oh, it would be cool if CM Punk came in and feud with this person or that person. Of course, I would love to see CM Punk back in wrestling, but I'm also the CM Punk fan that even though I don't know the person, I'd rather see him doing what he wants to do, what makes him happy, than looking for my own selfish need as a wrestling fan of CM Punk to see him go back to the company. So,
you know what I think? The shame of it is that I actually think that in a different world, 20 years ago, you could have a guy like Kenny Omega make that impact that Jericho did, but keep in mind, I'm saying 20 years ago because the internet ruins everything, and it's so impossible these days. Hell, look at what they did with Hogan last week. I'm not on the dirt sheets at all. And before we went to Extreme Rules, just by going on Twitter for like 2 seconds, that's all everyone was talking about was Hogan was flown this Cleveland. That means he's in Pittsburgh, and that means he's going to be at Extreme Rules, and that's all. Hogan's back, and it's like, okay, so and again, I was laughing to myself like, why would they bring him back in Pittsburgh of all places? Come on, we're a dump. But it's just that to me that ruins any sort of surprise. So I do think that Omega could. I do think like a Punk comeback. Listen, as much as people would want or not want to see it. I'm with you, dude. I know this is. Listen, I'm as big a fan as anybody, but I'm over Punk being in the company. If he doesn't want to be there, he doesn't want to be there. If they don't want him, they don't want him. Let's just fucking all move on. I don't know why it's constantly a talking point. Typically though, by those that are the ones that don't like him. I don't know. It's then the ones that are fans of him. But undoubtedly there'd be a pop if he came back. There'd be a pop. I think if the Young Bucks are who I instantly thought of. Because they're two guys that I think that if they if they had that surprise debut, like they came out if they came from out of nowhere, it would be that I think that with the right crowd we could absolutely get that debut, pop. But again, the internet ruins everything because everybody wants to be in the know so bad. Everybody works, I always say it, we're too busy working ourselves into a shoot, then we shoot ourselves back into a work. And by the time we're done on the internet, we've conjured up so many different, situations in our head that we've forgotten really why, that what's even going on with the show. We're only focusing on something that's never happening, and it's all because of internet clickbait. So I don't know, Josh, I actually do think that there could be some guy, some talent that would come in, man and woman. I mean, Ronda Rousey was a huge one. So to be fair, I think Rousey coming in after the Rumble was a really smart way to do that because if they would have brought her out during the Rumble or in the Rumble, the people weren't expecting her. So that was a really smart way to do it. I think that we're going to have to see more things done like that in order to really get that Jericho pop. And I hate to keep saying that Jericho pop because yes, I know I'm absolutely sounding like a homer right now, but I always still go back to that as like the moment for me. There's just moments.
And my views have changed over the years where, I'm not looking at just the big name guys coming up to Raw or SmackDown on the Superstar shakeup. I'm looking at the underneath guys and what men and women who you wouldn't expect to become bigger stars. For example, look where Carmella, Alexa Bliss, Elias, Braun Strowman are at now after that first WWE draft. And I always hear the narrative that WWE doesn't do a good enough job building stars. I just read off 4 people, and I can keep going.
Yeah.
And that's what I look forward to. What about a guy like the Velveteen Dream? Yeah, I know everybody's going to be focused on Adam Cole in the Undisputed Era or Johnny Gargano or Tommaso Ciampa. Yeah, those are the big hitters, or Aleister Black. But how about somebody like Nikki Cross or, like I mentioned, Velveteen Dream? There's other talents that because they're all developmental. Those guys already made guys. I know what they can do. It's just other people I want to see develop.
My daughter is so angry that Sanity debuted without Nikki Cross. She's there is a thirst for Nikki Cross on Raw or SmackDown. But I couldn't agree with you more. But here's what I think the beautiful part of what you just talked about. You're right. There's the internet. When you say everyone, what I hear out of it is the internet bubble, because the internet bubble absolutely they're waiting for the Adam Cole, the Undisputed Era. They're waiting for maybe Ricochet. They're waiting for, what I mean? But now I think the reason why you hear a lot of the guys that are on Raw and SmackDown, why they're talking about working with the Velveteen Dream is because he's a good worker. He does what's asked of him. He is that Roman Reigns type of guy. And I know here we go again with comparisons, but listen, there's something that Cena did that people don't like. There's something that Reigns did that a lot of people don't like. And it might eventually end up being that once he gets to Raw or SmackDown, fans may turn on the Velveteen Dream because he is the epitome of a company man, period. He's not an indie darling. Yes, he was, in some ways, like kind of like, I don't want to say homegrown through WWE, but he was in a way kind of like, homegrown through WWE. But there's nothing wrong with that. I don't understand why that albatross hangs on a talent's shoulders. I feel like it's used as a slingshot by a bunch of people on their couch that are never was and can never be's. So I don't know, man. I think that and that's why I love what you just said and why I kind of wanted to dissect it a little bit, because I think that there is absolutely, I get why people are looking, I can't tell you how many times just in Pittsburgh, this is no bullshit. And it's to the point where it nauseates Sam, because I don't think she's an Adam Cole fan at all. And I don't think she's a fan of the Undisputed Era at all. But like literally anywhere we go, because we don't go that many places, but anywhere we go, like I'll see at least one Undisputed Era shirt in Pittsburgh. Like it's like clockwork. It's really fucking insane. And it's a big wrestling city here, but it's legit. I see that shirt 90% of the time if I see a wrestling shirt. It's now you go to the event though, like I said, it was, you saw more Roman Reigns merchandise than anything else. But that's just that. I think that's going to end up being the difference, brother. Is I do think that, you need that indie darling, and you need that. That's what I think. I think that's what the internet bubble doesn't understand. As much as, we love to throw shade at the WWE guys, we need both. We need both for it to be World Wrestling Entertainment. Otherwise it would just be Ring of Honor.
Yeah. And I mentioned
not that that's a bad thing either.
No, it's not a bad thing. I mentioned this a couple of months ago. I don't know why it's a problem to not just accepting, like, be like, oh, I'm just going to feed it to whatever company feeds us, Like, if you have your constructive complaints, go ahead. I've always gone to the point where I want to rationalize to people that not everything's that bad, and that every company, even if they're not doing what you want them to do, it's not a bad reflection on them, because they don't have to present their company like New Japan. When I watch Lucha Underground, I don't have to expect it to be the same way as NXT is. Right. I don't know why we have a problem. We always talk about we need competition, we need variety. You're getting variety right now. Look at all the promotions that are having streaming opportunities for you to watch. You have the choice of what wrestling you want to watch. It's on you to go and find what you want.
Well, and here's the thing. You know what, Josh? This is where I could work this in. Like, and I know we say this a lot, but let me break this down and kind of explain like what I really mean. Like, I always say that WWE is like the Saturday Night Live of professional wrestling, where it's just taking the best of the best and forming it into a variety show. And that's why you're never going to get a WWE show, guys, that's going to cater completely to you, because it's catering to a wider audience. And this is what I mean. There's comedy troupes all over the country. You look at Upright Citizens Brigade, so anything UCB. You look at Second City Comedy. You look at there's like Broken Lizard has their guys. You look at I could just keep going and going and going and just naming these comedy troupes that Comedy Central plucks from and Saturday Night Live plucks from, and you're probably saying, well, how does this relate? Well, how it relates is, guys that are on, the men and women on Saturday Night Live started somewhere else. They started in a comedy team somewhere else, where the comedy might have been more rigid, more raw, more gritty. But when you get on Saturday Night Live, you're now on network television. You have to tone it down. You still have the same elements. Sometimes some of the comedians have been able to bring their characters from when they were working just theaters and stages and small, starting in Second City. They've been able to bring those characters up to Saturday Night Live, like you are when you're in the indies coming up to WWE. But you're not always going to have it exactly the same, because now you're not playing for that audience of one. You're playing for a broader audience, and that's where I think us as fans, we kind of stumble over our own feet, because we get so caught up in the competition of it. We think this person's better, and this person has more training, and this person has traveled the world, and this person we get so caught up in all of that we forget that at the end of the day, WWE does still have their own style and their own audience. And no matter how much we think we know, they know their audience better. Just like we would never go up to Lorne Michaels and say, like, there's not a person that bitches about professional wrestling that would have the balls to go to Lorne Michaels, creator of SNL and basically just the head of SNL, and would say, I really disagree with your cast. I think that you should do that. You would get laughed at and kicked out and would never be heard from again. And I think that it's comical that we kind of do that with wrestling. And it's where this is where we pick apart the characters though. And ultimately that's where, and it's not the men and women playing these characters. It's the characters, and it's because of the journey. I don't know. I don't know, but that's where I think that, Josh, it's the easiest way for me to break it down. I hope for people to understand that are at least comedy fans. Once they get to WWE, you can't be like you were. Like, take your two favorite guys from Broken Lizard. They can't be as if they're all of a sudden on Saturday Night Live, they can't be as raunchy as they were in Beer Fest or in Super Troopers, or you know what I mean? Like they would have to tone it down just a little, maybe just a little. But that's and that's not selling out either. That's one thing I've never liked. Yes, Josh.
Let me bring this full circle because, Jericho's celebrating 19 years. A little part of me hopes they do a little 20th anniversary special in Chicago next year for it being 20 years. I think that'd be pretty cool. But Jericho's had a lot of awesome moments here. Even from his debut to having a comedy segment with Bob Barker on the Price is Raw show that was here, and then having a title feud match with Punk in Chicago. Jericho's done a lot for the city, and Fozzie's a big hit here in Chicago as well. So we'll give props to Jericho, man. The guy's doing a lot of good stuff in his career, and the crazy thing, 19 years has gone by. That's bad.
Here's one thing that I think that, and again, I'm a mark, so it's what it is. But Jericho has always been able to. Again, you can't reinvent the wheel. No one ever truly reinvents the wheel. But sometimes people come along and they tweak it just right, and it kind of alters the course for like a lot of what he said. It's funny that a lot of what he said in that promo. Chris Jericho debuting did ring in a new millennium when it came to how an entertainer self-promoted, how he self-promoted outside of wrestling. He really is a groundbreaking talent and a groundbreaking guy, and a hell of an entrepreneur. It's Chris Jericho is a guy that we really should be celebrating. I know my wife is stab me if she listens to this because she is very down on Jericho right now. Not in that way, but I've always said, and I used to get laughed at, but I've always said that, when it's all said and done, years from now, we're going to look back and say Jericho was one of the most influential men to step into that ring. And I do believe that, 10, 20, 30, we should already be saying it, but time is always the best judge. And I think he's going to be judged very, very nicely.
Let me get some of the gratuitous plugs out of the way before we transition to some other fun stuff here in the podcast. First off, ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. Wednesdays, once again, becoming my busiest day of the week. I thought that was going to change after I left WrestleZone. But, starting my own thing, then we got more shows going on. So back on the grind at it on Wednesdays. It's a one-man site. I'm the only writer on my site, and I'm doing the transcriptions for all your favorite wrestling shows. I made a reference sheet for the Mae Young Classic, which is starting on September 5th on the WWE Network. There's going to be a preview special on that on August 29th. Got 3 more shows left of the G1 tournament. Started all the way back to July, the middle of July. It was July 14th was the first show. So, it's been about a month of covering New Japan shows and all their I'm trying to find the right word for it. Oh, antics. There you go. Antics. All their shit, no following the rules and brawls that go around the arena for 3 minutes, even though there's a 20-second time limit to get back in the ring.
That's optional. As my daughter says, that's an adult suggestion. That's not a rule.
Right. That's funny.
It's funny because it's not your daughter. Because it's genius and it's, I know.
Tama Tonga is in the full zero fucks given mode. Good for him. He's making t-shirts and some money out of it. So
I like it.
Some good stuff.
I like it. It's a good look on him.
And we'll crown the winner of the G1 tournament on Sunday. Final 8 block matches are on tomorrow. Okada's taking on Tanahashi. Suzuki, Bad Luck Fale. We got other matches. So Hangman Page and Yoshihashi should be a good show, good match. And then B Block, their final show is on Saturday. All 3 shows are in Budokan. Also, you're going to see the Young Bucks on the show, sprinkling in some tag matches here or there. So some good stuff for New Japan Pro Wrestling. For predictions, because I think in a couple weeks I may do like a little special where I just talk about my experience covering the tournament and what matches stood out to me the most. But as far as the tournament and the finals, my prediction, I think Tanahashi comes out of the A block and Omega comes out of the B block, and it's Tanahashi versus Omega for the final spot. But it can also change. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if Ibushi won, and it's Ibushi and Tanahashi. I know they had great matches in the past. Anyway, some good stuff going on for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And one final plug before we move on. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. Leave us a review what you like about the podcast, any suggestions you have for the show. That'd be very important. And shout out to all the good brothers and good sisters who check us out weekly, from Ant, from Sam Rafferty to Nick from the UK, Patrick Fritz, just a lot of people out there who supported our shows over the past.
The big man years. Pat's getting married, I think, huh?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. The bells we hear the bells.
The bells are ringing, man.
No, congrats, brother. I'm not going to make the typical jokes. Listen, marriage is a wonderful thing. Congrats, brother.
Congrats, brother. Before we get to SummerSlam, I wanted to ask you this. You're in your like teenage years when Nirvana came out.
Oh, then yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay, Nirvana. We got to think. Whenever they first came out, I think Nevermind came out in '91. So I was 11. I was born in '79. You guys do the math,
Right. So even during their run with Nirvana, like, what would you say is like the Nirvana of wrestling? It can be a promotion, a performer, a run for a performer in a 3 or 4 year span. What would you consider like the Nirvana of wrestling?
Man, this is going to create. Man. Okay, this is going to be sensitive. Listen, I don't typically joke about this kind of stuff, so that's why I'm setting up. And a comedian never shows his hand. I should just let it rip. But ECW, because it was awesome. It was great while it lasted, but ultimately shot itself in the head. I'm sorry. I know it's horrible because he probably didn't even shoot himself in the head. It was Courtney Love's boy. It's just the joke that seemed right. I know, guys. I apologize. That one was off color. You should expect nothing else from me. But no, but honestly, I hate that. Without that comparison, you know what, dude, ECW, because it was Nirvana only had 2 albums. We talk about the the Unplugged album after that. Then there was people consider Bleach an album, but realistically they had Nevermind, they had In Utero, and it was Nirvana was almost this enigma that came and went and just was gone too soon. And gone before its time because of some unfortunate incidents. I don't know. I guess ECW is the and maybe it was just because both were very big things in the area where I grew up in, and both were big parts of my life. So I guess that's why I had the same I guess I was a fanatic of both. I don't know. I guess that's probably what I look at. I don't know. That's a good question though, man. Nirvana's just an odd band they use because it was like a limited run.
Nirvana's up there, one of my favorite rock bands of all time.
Oh, absolutely.
The reason I'm asking this is because I was thinking about this the other day, and All In's coming up in a month's time now, and they're coming here in Chicago, and I was thinking about it, like what events or promotions or performers really changed the landscape for a short period of time, where it's so underground to the point where it's not corporately run, and performers either succeed on their own terms in spite of producers.
Right.
That's why I'm asking this, because I can look at the Punk run after the pipe bomb and the Money the Bank pay-per-view, so left the company. I could say that at the same point. Now, Punk didn't shoot himself. Punk left the company. Punk, he had a situation why he left the company and stuff.
No, he walked into a firing squad in the Octagon, though. Well, boom! I'm here all week, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a good one.
I'm sorry.
ECW could. I agree with your ECW comparison. I can totally see that. But I also could look at this whole thing with the Young Bucks and Cody Rhodes thing with All In being a future Nirvana of wrestling, where you have more All In events. You got this Ring of Honor New Japan show at Madison Square Garden at WrestleMania weekend. It's just something I was thinking about the last couple of days, because All In's coming up, and having these type of things where it's groundbreaking. I don't know how long this thing will run. This thing will last for All In and the success with Cody and the Young Bucks, but I'm enjoying it as it's going on.
Yeah, no, listen, I'm not going to pretend to make it seem like I've been keeping up with everything that's been going on. But they're doing a hell of a job promoting this, because you can't not go somewhat anywhere and not see something Bullet Club, something Young Bucks, something about All In. So whether it's, social media, I spend, when I say very little time, guys, on social media, I spend very little time on social media, because what I do for work is social media based. So I'm not, I'm technically other people and other businesses when I'm on social media, and I still see stuff for All In, not my account, other people's accounts. I don't really do social media at all anymore. It's 168 hours in a week. How much you wasting? But if I'm getting paid for it, I ain't wasting it. But that's what's crazy though, is accounts that should have, I should never see anything wrestling based at all. You're seeing stuff about All In just because it's getting enough fanfare. It's getting the right fanfare. And you know what, Josh, I agree. I agree with you as far as the buzz and I guess the underground noise. I'm trying to think of a different band to compare them to be honest. Just because I don't want to make it seem like ultimately I think the ECW comparison was. I think with Nirvana, it was almost. I think and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I think the Pillars were good, because I almost think that once ECW went big time, they almost lost themselves. Just like when Nirvana when they signed on to a major label, Kurt Cobain somewhat lost himself. There's more to the Cobain saga. Nirvana was about to be a thing of the past anyway. They were about to break up. He wanted to do folky stuff. It was. A lot of stuff was, but I think I'm trying to think of someone that, cause I want for this to be something that annually can be something, dude. So almost I'm looking at this as, this is not only people of a certain age are going to understand this, but I'm looking at Cody and what Cody and the Bucks are doing is what Perry Farrell and Trent Reznor and Rage and all of them got together when they put together the first Lollapalooza. This is, I always try to make the comparisons this way, and instead of rather putting it on one band, I'm looking at this as the first Lollapalooza with the hope, the first Lollapalooza of wrestling with the hope that this can continue on and on and on. Because, WWE has WrestleMania, which is like the Grammys in a way, right? But none of us really want to go. We all want to go to the Grammys somewhat, but let's face it, we'd much rather go to when we were younger, I guess maybe the MTV Movie Awards, or Music Awards, but I don't know, somewhere where they'd be fun rock bands, not weird pop stuff.
I don't know what's going on with the music video award shows anymore. I remember the Foo Fighters playing on top of the what's the name of that building in New York? The something Times.
I'm not sure.
my mind's escaping me. What else is new?
I'm trying to think what. Not the obviously it wouldn't be the Empire State Building. I'm trying to think what building you'd be thinking about.
This happens to me a lot. Like I know I have the visual of what like venue I'm talking about, but it happens all the time, especially like in LA or
dude. It's gonna get worse with age. There's times where like I have something like on the tip of my tongue, and I'll look at my wife and just go, you know what? Never mind. I have no idea what I was gonna say, and then just kind of like walk out of the room. We laugh and then we just go about our day. It doesn't get easier, guys. It doesn't get easier. Don't believe the hype.
Oh man, it's funny. Like I remember Foo Fighters playing on top of this building, and you had like this is the whole TRL era, and you had Eminem walking into the building playing.
Probably something in Times Square then, right? Times Square,
somewhere around there.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's why for me, I'm comparing this a little bit more to Lollapalooza. Hey, look, there's a Chicago tie-in because Lollapalooza's in Chicago too, so there we go. But you know what? Though, in Lollapalooza's early days, Perry Farrell of Jane's Addiction really put together just something that started a different style. You know, it really started the festival scene back up in the States again. You know, we didn't really have that as much. And it started a movement of, because then it went from Lollapalooza, then every city had their own, like ours was X Fest around here was what it was called. They'd get a bunch of bands together, you know, then you'd had Rilla Fair was a thing. Like there was all these tours, Coachella, now you have Coachella, you have all these other things, you know, Lollapalooza was the groundbreaking one for that. So I'd like to call All In the Lollapalooza of wrestling. And I hope they take that as a compliment, because I do mean that with the utmost, respect.
Radio City Music Hall. I found
okay.
I remember Foo Fighters playing on, and they did a lot of cool stuff when I was younger. With how they present the video awards. Now it's just like the one thing I do like about the award shows today, that they do have certain artists talk about like social issues and try to make a big thing about it. You know, Trump, the Orange Alien, will get on his soapbox about those type of artists talking about it in those type of platforms. But I appreciate that. And it's just my taste in music has kind of changed over the years, where like there's some artists that have catchy songs here and there, but it's not like when I was younger, when I was like, oh, this is like something I have to make sure I watch. Like the late 90s and early 2000s was a good time for music for me, especially with like award shows.
The music scene right now is, well, I don't know. I check that. What MTV's music scene is, or whatever the hell. I don't remember the last time I tried to watch an MTV Music Awards. But I remember I didn't know one fucking act that was on there, and I was like, wow, this is not for me anymore.
Right.
And another thing that this is just me being bitter and just totally honest, because let's not any of us kid ourselves here. But the 1 year fucking it was the MTV Movie Awards, and this was in I guess 2009 or whatever, because it was from the movies the year before. Like I'm pretty sure somebody from Harry Potter beat out Heath Ledger's Joker for Best Villain. And what was like Draco Malfoy or something. I'm just tossing that out because I think that's what it is, and I just want to see if I'll get brownie points from seeing if I got that right. But I think Twilight won Best Movie over The Dark Knight, and that's when I went, oh, wait a minute, this award show isn't for me anymore, you know. And that's when you realize you're old, and you realize that's when you also worry about the generation below. You know, when people say, and I always try to defend the generation, younger generations, but when you're going to put Twilight, and I think it was the first Twilight too, so it was like, vampires don't glitter. I don't.
That's bad.
Vampires do not glitter. They don't fucking glitter.
Let me say this though. The only things that Twilight that ever had any meaning to me, I thought Kristen Stewart was hot, but that's obvious. We'll get that out of the way. But also, there was a couple songs they had in their soundtracks which I thought were really good. Like Paramore had a song called Decode, which is a very, very good song. Also,
me and Sam are big fans of that song.
there's another band called Iron and Wine. It's kind of a folk group, but they had another good song in there as well. And also, give a shout out to Christina Perry. She's a very good artist as well.
Well, how about this? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I was just gonna say my favorite like video music award performance was Nirvana, Lithium.
Mm-hmm. Before we get back to Nirvana, I'm going to finish off with some Twilight trivia for you, because this might a little known fact for everybody out there. Stephanie Meyer, who made these, and I know this is who cares about this, right? But the Twilight series is based on, wait for it, a dream that she had that she actually thought about putting to Muse. Basically the entire story is she has a Muse soundtrack for like every book or every movie or whatever, and the songs that she listened to inspire her for that particular thing. So it was the music of the band Muse, which is like Tool and Muse are my two favorite bands. And it's like, as much as I love Muse, look, with everything that you love, sometimes it always comes back and gives you something that you don't love too. That's just the balance in life. But that's actually a fact for anybody out there. If you ever end up on Jeopardy, it's those novels are actually based off of inspired by Muse's music.
That's what you get with this show, ladies and gentlemen. You get a dose of everything. We can go in a lot of different directions, but we have a lot of fun along the way. So I hope you guys are.
Because who didn't want Twilight trivia today, right?
Right.
What other show goes from Chris Jericho's debut and talking about how important it was to the wrestling industry to Twilight?
Harry Potter, Radio City Music Hall, all this stuff. But there was a wrestling topic in it, and All In is actually going to be on pay-per-view now. They're having a 1-hour pre-show.
That's good.
Yeah, America, which is really cool. I'm looking forward to covering that event. Also, since we're talking about All In, we give a shout out to Ran with Dan, because they're actually hosting on Podcast Row. That's a big deal to have your own show on a big convention like that for StarCast. I don't know when they're coming on or whatever, but Ant, G-Rod, Phil, everybody who's going to be in Chicago for All In weekend. Congrats to you guys. I've done live podcasts before in different events. I did a Connor's Career Benefit thing a couple years ago in Chicago, which was a lot of fun with my old co-host from my radio show, Alex Velasquez. That was a lot of fun. And it's never easy to do it. We only had like 30 people that we're talking to. It was like a little coffee bar in the north side of Chicago, which kind of made me uncomfortable because I'm not a Cubs fan, and Cubs fans are all over the place, and they're kind of shady people, but that's just my opinion.
Jesus.
But anyways.
You're acting like they're MS-13s. Watch out for these Cubs fans.
They could be.
Took your jobs. Cubs fans took the job in Pittsburgh.
But anytime you get to perform like that, no matter how many people in front of you, it can be nervous, but you guys do kill it anyway. So, big shout out to you guys.
Yeah, that's good for them guys. Listen, Sam and I wanted to go up to, the whole thing was to kind of like end the summer with going up to All In. It just, we had so many different things that happened this summer. It was just like unexpected. That's the unexpected life twist, man, I didn't think we'd be buying 2 separate cars this summer. So, needless to say, we're not going to go to All In, but that's why I'm glad it's going to be on pay-per-view, man, because this is something I really wanted to check out. Again, like that's why I keep saying I truly feel like this has a Lollapalooza vibe, and I know that's only going to mean something to a certain select people that are listening to this. Maybe one person for all I know, but if you remember back then when like there was when they were even just talking about it and the hype around it, like this unbelievable festival, and then it's going to be then eventually touring, and it was just it felt this way whenever you were into a certain. But again, Josh, I'd like to point this out. Another reason why I want to compare this to Lollapalooza versus other types of things is Lollapalooza knew its market, and they knew who they were playing for. Right. So a lot of the bands, a lot of the acts were for that certain fan, which is what All In is. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, we need that. We need more of that. But this is where I do feel that it's unfair to compare one to the other when it comes to comparing like the hype around All In or to like anything going on in WWE, like people are trying to do, because it's totally apples and oranges when ultimately we should want to eat them both.
Yeah. Right. And it's gonna be a fun show. Maybe they do a second one, maybe they don't. But this is not only benefiting Cody and the Young Bucks, but it's also giving another spotlight for New Japan. It's giving another spotlight for Ring of Honor. It's giving spotlight to NWA, which is doing good stuff. They're presenting their product differently. I tried my best to cover every promotion out there. I know MLW has their own TV show now with Court Bauer on BN Sports. There's a lot of wrestling going on right now. Even I can't cover all the weekly shows that are going on right now. It's insane. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan. If you guys are coming to Chicago, make the most out of this trip. Now, I want to give a props to Cody because there's you know how it is. Anytime there's a New Japan show or All In, something like he made it clear that All In is not about being anti-WWE. It's pro wrestling. And the wrestling business as a whole is in a good place. Don't go to All In just thinking about Roman Reigns and this and that. That's not the point of going to Chicago for this show. And this is something homegrown for people investing in themselves while you have a douchebag Dave Meltzer saying, "Oh, you can't do that." Well, guess what? They are, and they're on pay-per-view now. So how about that?
Well, and just like, I said this a couple months ago when we first started talking about this, and it still rings true that not only is this, and that's why I love that they incorporated the podcasters. They're making this this is all about just celebrating not only professional wrestling, the art form, the pageantry, but the community. It's celebrating everything. They're really giving back to the fans. They're giving back to people that there are guys like you and I that do this, and other people that do this. We just do it on our free time. We don't do it for whatever. And it's nice to see, people that are, trying to make a name for themselves get rewarded that way and get a platform out there. Like Ant and them got, shout out, brother. Like that's unbelievably awesome. And, that's not something that you typically see out of, you wouldn't see that from an NFL. You wouldn't see that from, but I think they realize the importance of the wrestling community is like, we talked about this, Josh, when the wrestling community comes together, we're one of the most beautiful subcultures on this planet. And I truly believe that. Like, and I truly, it's when we start stumbling over ourselves because we want to try and be this is better than this and this is better than this. That's where it all, like, and I think that Cody had a vision enough to know, and Cody and everyone involved to see that it was more than just them. It was because they wouldn't be there without the fans too. This is, like we said before, there's only certain eras where this could happen, and in certain times, like this couldn't have worked 6, 7, 8 years ago. They're just like, I know people aren't going to like this, but the talent pool just wasn't out there. I mean, it's just right now when you go from WWE's roster, including NXT, now you're looking at rosters all around the world, and there's just a lot of great talent out there right now. It's just like we talked about, like there's certain times in music that are better than other times. It's just there's just a lot of talented men and women out there that are able to put on captivate. And I mean, men and women that should be, for all intents and purposes, should be in WWE. But right now it's just either they're choosing not to, the timing isn't right, or whatever the case may be. But they're able to have this spotlight put on them, and I think they realize that this is sometimes the stars align just right, and right now we're in that era. And I'll admit, part of me gets worried though, Josh, because I worry that wrestling might be peaking again, because that there's always an ebb and flow to wrestling. I'm hoping now, like we keep talking about, that we're kind of getting to a too big to fail with all these companies, so that there isn't a drop down. I hope that this isn't a one and done. I'd love to see All In 2, 3, 4, and it slowly evolve every year into its own into its own life force. And I appreciate the fact that they did that, because that's not something that they didn't have to basically say, hey, you know what, we want podcasters down here. We want to make sure what do the fans want? Let's think fans first and cater what our needs around the fans. There's not a lot. I mean, every company, they do that because you need it, but they don't do it like in this way, and I tip my hat to them, to the men and women that really put this together.
One of these things I like to cover, that like 2K get around party they have every year in Brooklyn before SummerSlam. Like, it's like a Friday night, something like that, and they have like wrestlers come in and do interviews and stuff. Like, for me, as a wrestling fan, as a media member, that'd be something cool to check out because even WWE goes a lot out of their way for the fan access and conventions and this and that. Even they make a big deal out of SummerSlam. Survivor Series in LA this year. I'm pretty sure they'll have a big get together type of thing in LA going on as well. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on right now. Before we get to this week of programming, I just want to go over I'm quickly going to read over the matches for SummerSlam. We're up to 11 right now. So, another long night for your boy. I'm just going to say that right now. Daniel Bryan versus The Miz, Finn Balor, Constable Corbin, Shinsuke Nakamura defending his U.S. title against Jeff Hardy. This time next week will be a triple threat match, so we'll put Randy Orton in there for the meantime. Cedric Alexander, Drew Gulak, Cruiserweight title match. I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a lot of fun. By the way, Mustafa Ali, Chicago's very own, that guy is insane, man. Every time he's in a match, it's 20, 25 minutes and the guy's killing his body. That guy's a trip, man.
I haven't been as up on 205 Live, but I will say this. Now that they're going to be airing the Mae Young Classic on Wednesdays, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What I do think that we're going to do is I was kind of talking about last night. I think that just because I know that my daughter's not going to want to miss an episode of that, we're going to make it so that I pick a day where we kind of crash all the network shows in one day real quick, just how people do with Netflix and all that. So I feel bad that we're not caught up on 205 Live and even NXT. I haven't watched an episode of NXT and I just watched the takeovers. I can't remember the last time I sat down and actually watched an episode, but it's just again just not enough time. But that's something we'll make it for the kids. Do it for the kids.
Do the kids.
It's like Wu-Tang. It's for the children.
Right. We'll touch on Takeover Brooklyn Ford next week. Next week will be our SummerSlam preview show, so we'll save that for next week. Carmella, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair triple threat match for SmackDown Women's title. Dolph Ziggler, Seth Rollins for the IC title. Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens for the Money in the Bank contract. Bludgeon Brothers take on the New Day after the New Day tear down the house with the bar this past week on SmackDown in the main event. It's going to be the Bludgeon Brothers against the New Day for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. AJ Styles, Samoa Joe for the WWE title. Alexa Bliss versus Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's title. And lastly, certainly not least, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns for the Universal title. So that's SummerSlam right now.
Real quick, I know we're going to do predictions next week, I'm sure. So but I just want to just see if I caught something, and I just don't want to talk about it anymore. I just wanted to let it simmer with everybody for a week. But did they mention on Raw that Brock was 14 days away from 500 days exactly?
Yes. Yep. I heard Michael Cole say that. Yep.
Okay, so theoretically, and follow me on this one, guys. I'm not saying this happens or whatever, but just follow me. Say Brock Lesnar walks out of SummerSlam Universal Champion. They could strip him of the title on Monday and end his streak at 500 days exactly.
Right.
Okay, just tossing that out there for everybody that's dead set that Roman's winning. Just food for thought. I'm still leaning towards Roman Reigns winning too, but let's just toss it out there.
This is going to be a good transition because the intro this week for the podcast is Paul Heyman's sit-down interview with Renee Young.
Wow, is that good?
And if Paul Heyman is not Hall of Fame worthy, first ballot Hall of Fame worthy, I don't know what is, because to put out that type of performance and that type of interview, and we've seen Paul Heyman back in the company for the past 6 years, and he's cut great promos, and we know how good of a talent the guy is. But everybody's like, oh man, we're seeing Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar for the 8th millionth time, even though they did mention on the video package this week this is actually going to be their 4th match. One-on-one, yeah. Because there was a couple 4 ways, 3 ways along the way for other matches they were involved with. And anyways, Paul Heyman brought us to storytelling school this week on Raw, and I don't know if you saw the little extra unedited clip that they put on the next day. Renee, at the point where Paul Heyman was saying that Roman Reigns doesn't have a chance to beat Brock Lesnar, he said that, and then he said, unless he starts smiling, takes off his mic set, and walks away.
Okay.
And then it's like, unless what? Unless what? And I want to give props to Renee because she played such a big part in that interview as Paul Heyman.
Yes, sir.
So props to Renee Young. She's actually going to be doing color commentary not only on the Mae Young Classic, but on this week's Monday Night Raw as well. So,
oh, really?
Really cool.
That's awesome. I knew about the Mae Young Classic. I didn't know about Raw. Listen, one thing I loved about this segment, and I'm glad you brought up Renee Young because absolutely she played her part just as much as Heyman played his. And this was, it took two for this to be. Listen, this is one of those for your consideration moments, right? For WWE, this is like their Emmy submission. But the part that I loved, and this is when for me, this is what grabbed me. And I'm sure everybody has their favorite line or their favorite, whatever from this, but it's the moment when, she's like, Paul, I'm sorry. And he's like, no, come on, just do it. And that was, to me, that, if anybody's seen Watchmen, that's that Rorschach moment in Watchmen where he's outside and Ozymandias just basically blew half the world up. And Dr. Manhattan, and Rorschach wants to go tell people about it. And Manhattan says, you can't do that. We got to keep the peace. And Manhattan blows him up. But Rorschach's sitting there screaming at him, do it. What are you waiting for? It was that moment where I was like, man, and it was, and I'm sure they probably used the Vicks Vapor rub up there to kind of, but there's not this shows how valuable Paul Heyman is and how much of an entertainer Paul Heyman is. And listen, and so I brought up ECW earlier, man. I have such an emotional attachment to back to those old ECW days when they used to come to CCBC Golden Dome in Beaver County in Monaca, Pennsylvania. And we, damn near every 6 months or so, and we'd be there like idiots every single time, and so it's but and then obviously, the earlier days with Paulie Dangerously and all that stuff too, but it's just, just Heyman's a guy that it's wrestling just always feels better when he's around, it feels more complete. And it's, and it sucks that we can't have him on a weekly basis, but, it's moments like this, Josh, that we always say wrestling is about those moments. And this is one, I think that the consensus was definitely pretty unanimous, and I know that that's pretty unanimous isn't a real thing. It was unanimous that, this was definitely a winning segment.
Absolutely. And I'm interested to see where this goes because, you can have your differences towards both guys. I've made my opinions clear on Brock Lesnar and the whole situation, and everybody has their weekly diatribe about Roman Reigns. We're not going to do that on here because we don't spend 90 minutes on a show talking about just one person.
Reigns has been, but here's my thing. Here's what I don't actually get. Reigns actually, I took a step back this week to try and I tried to take a step back because I guess I've been watching as a casual fan now because I don't watch 80 million shows a week, so I'm a casual fan, even though I watch religiously every week. But so whatever the hell that makes me. But
you don't need monikers. You're fine.
Who cares? But listen. Roman is getting better, and Roman is getting more comfortable in his role. And I don't. And it's not when I say getting better, I mean he's already been there, guys. I know there's Roman Reigns detractors, just like I know there's Brock Lesnar detractors, but by the same token, I'm at a point that I don't understand the criticism of either guy. I mean, I understand the criticisms, but by the same token, I feel like there's people that are criticizing both men, and I feel like if you're criticizing both men, you're talking out both sides of your mouth. You know what I mean? If you don't like Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns, then you just don't like then you're maybe WWE isn't for you. Or at least, when I was a kid, I never liked the main event because I wasn't a Hogan fan unless it was a Heenan guy that was mixed up with Hogan, which it typically was. I didn't really care because I didn't care about Hulk Hogan. Hogan Warrior to me is still, you know how I feel about that match, and I don't feel well. But I don't know, man. I think that it's, looking at how there was a certain camera angle they used this week when Reigns hit the spear, and dude, he just looks so fluid and so smooth, and it was you could just tell the timing and everything. It's the little nuances that people gloss over because and for how big he is too. When Corbin hit the deep six on him, dude, that was a thing of beauty. And that's both guys. That's both of those guys. I'm not, that's both of those men that like nobody should like that was a great spot where it was just like, holy shit. They made it was poetry in motion. And that's both men doing their part. So to say, these guys aren't holding their own it kind of does infuriate me sometimes, because knock Reigns all you want, but you can't knock his ability. I guess here's where I'm at with Reigns, Josh. I don't like it. I don't like his character. I'm not going to lie, but I really appreciate him in the ring. I love watching him wrestle. So, but there's a lot of guys that I love them on the mic that, to be honest, I don't want to see him wrestle. You can have it both ways. You know what I mean? I can be fans of both styles. I don't know why other people can't.
Right. I want to ask you this. Did you catch the Sterling James Keenan reference on SmackDown this week?
No. Fuck no, because there was so much going on. When? They made a Sterling reference.
When the Bludgeon Brothers were taking on 3SK. Tom feels like, what's the 3SK? No, Grace actually said, what's the 3SK? He's like, and then Tom Phillips versus Sir James Keenan. And then Grace just went on this whole thing where he's ripping the jobbers. He's like, oh, we got the Roman Reigns starter kit. And the Taz look like.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that, because I skipped through a little bit of it because it was guys, listen, this has been a long week, but I'm gonna have to go back and watch it. My daughter was watching it today, and I typically rewatch it, whenever she watches it. But I was working her in the shower or something. So, holy shit! I'm glad they dropped a Sterling reference on there. The chemistry on the announce teams has been solid, man.
Great, man.
It's been awesome. I mean, I know sometimes they sound like on Raw. Sometimes I feel like they always get coached. Like they can kind of get coached in like a kerfuffle, so to speak. But it's funny, man. Like, I don't know. I like that they have this. They don't, even though we know that they're being spoken to, and I get that. But it sounds, at least they're presenting that they're a little less scripted than what they were, and that's all we were asking for, right?
Yeah. Right. And I love how Grace is always on Coach's ass.
It's great. Oh, it's so great.
Oh man, I'm very excited to see how the Renee Young dynamic is on Monday. Coach is not going to be on the show this Monday, but Renee's filling in for him, so it's going to be pretty cool.
Didn't Graves and Renee do commentary together in NXT?
Maybe I think they did.
Okay. I thought they did, but I could be totally wrong, dude. My memory anymore is like, hey, this happened today, and that's about all I got for you. So,
Grace me just dropping the gems all the time, man.
He's the man.
Whether he's ripping Paige or calling somebody a derelict or this is a bunch of good stuff.
I said this 2 years ago on a podcast, and I know I got laughed at, but I started making a lot of comparisons that were absolutely premature. But I don't know. I followed his work. He's a Pittsburgh boy. A lot of similar things in common, as far as like musically and stuff like that. And obviously, so regardless of like whatever, you're going to follow a guy like that. You're going to follow his career, and you're always going to support him. So I Graves, dude, I'm glad to see that we finally have that. We finally have a voice for this generation. Right. I guess is the best way of saying it, because everyone had that. When I was a kid growing up, I mean, there was nothing like listening to like Gorilla Monsoon, you know what I mean? And just like, and there's some other voices like, then you transfer over into the Jim Ross days, and just other commentary teams that you just had the chemistry back and forth, whether it was, like Ventura or McMahon or like, I'm not saying they're the best or the worst or, but you always need that distinctive voice. And whether people like it or not, that's been Michael Cole. And I think he's done a really good job, being that voice. Whether people realize it or not, he was the voice that WWE needed during that like mid-2000s to like, the mid-20 teens, just because of how, I hate to say PG, but it did get very PG for a minute. And he's a very professional guy, Now it just seems like Graves can be that voice where he's a little, he's a little more reflective of the audience. And that's not a slight on Cole, or that's not, that's just, I think that's where the difference is being, like, in the time, it's just what WWE needs at that time. And I'm glad that Graves is flourishing in his role. I'm glad that, I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel bad that they keep dumping stuff on him, because every week I'm on a podcast sitting here talking about how great Corey Graves is, like everybody else is probably on these podcasts. You know what I mean? So the poor dude's probably like, shut the fuck up. Yeah, he's probably like, shut up already, guys. Tell him I'm terrible. He probably wants some sleep, but no, man, it's good. Like, listen, I know everybody always pulls for their hometown people, and I'm glad that Graves is kind of getting his look. But I think him and Renee, I think will have really good chemistry, dude. I think that'll be a fun listen on Monday night.
Let's talk about another Pittsburgh boy, Elias, living his best life as always. I'll say this, though, and I know people may not be feeling the whole Elias-Bobby Lashley feud, but I am, because I actually thought this is where they were going when Bobby returned, because when Bobby made his return on Raw, he interrupted the Elias segment, and I thought they were going to feud, and then we had this random thing with Sami Zayn, and Bobby was teaming up with Braun Strowman. We never actually had the Elias-Bobby Lashley feud. So looking at this from a full circle standpoint, I'm actually glad they're getting to this now, because obviously Lashley's not going to be in the title match, and Elias is not doesn't have anything for the show right now. I mean, of course he can have a concert and be embarrassed by somebody, but I want to give props to Elias, because this is the great art of heel work, where you're like showcasing how much of a hypocrite you are in a way, because on Raw he's talking about like, I watched the network special, and they're painting me out to be an egomaniac and I'm easy to work with, and I want to redo the documentary. So he has his own crew and stuff, and I'm like, that's the greatest story. He knows what his character is, but also he's mentioning things to bring him down at the same time. So Elias, I'm bowing down to you right now. You're the man.
Oh, he's the best. I liked when he said, "How about you guys walk around me?" So what did he say? So it's like I'm the center of the universe and you guys are orbiting me, or like whatever the hell he said, or however he said it. That was great, man. And that's what I guess is there's a lot of really, really, really good things going on. I agree with you, man. I thought this was going to happen earlier, but you know what, dude? In hindsight. And I know maybe it was just a talking point. Maybe it's still just me looking into things too much. But they had to have that Roman and Lashley one-off not that it was a one-off, but just start to build something there. Cause I think they were just planting seeds for maybe future storylines with them too. But, they in a way had to leave Elias off the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, because he was going to get there's no way he wasn't getting a crowd pop in his hometown. I would be, it would be hard. It's hard when you're a hometown boy in Pittsburgh. It's hard to not get a pop. They had to have Kurt Angle talk shit on Fred Rogers, who literally died like the body wasn't cold. And like they had to kind of like blind promo where he was basically talking shit on Fred Rogers just to get the crowd attempt to like boo him, because he was the antagonist at the time. But it's hard to so maybe they had to leave him off that pay-per-view, and then that gave them the opportunity to have that Lashley and Reigns match, and then revisit it, because in a way, Lashley, we could say, took out Sami Zayn and shelved him for the year. Whether or not that's how they want to tell the story, that left that door open for them. And I think Bobby Lashley needed that. I don't want to say he needed a tune-up match. Maybe the fans needed a tune-up match with him, just so that we could get used to seeing him again. Because I think a lot of times that's what it is. Like, fans almost have to get used to seeing a certain talent on their screen again, because they haven't been there for so long. It's almost like, hey, a new character came back from the dead, but we thought you were dead. Nah, I'm never dead.
You know how you brought up the loser goes to SmackDown match with Daley and Sasha?
Evolution.
Do you think that could happen with Miz and Daniel Bryan?
If they want to, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
for me right now, and I know we'll get the predictions next week, but there's nothing that's showing me where Miz is not winning this match.
Oh, he's absolutely winning this match. Yeah, absolutely. I could see that. I think it would, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with Daniel Bryan's contract or what, I don't know if that's just them working us and so that's why I don't pay attention to that shit other than like, it's like, oh, people are talking about this now, huh? And just kind of keep flipping past it, But because it's ultimately you play it one of two ways. If Daniel Bryan doesn't re-sign, Miz goes over, Daniel Bryan, leaves. I just feel like I feel like Daniel Bryan leaves for a while and just comes back at the Rumble. But yeah, you have Miz go over. And I mean, I just feel like you suspended disbelief that Daniel Bryan left the company. Have him work indie shows. Let him work indie shows. Do whatever. You know what I mean? Just yeah. I guess that's where I'm at with this. But it could be that. It depends on how they want to frame. Maybe Daniel Bryan loses and just gets frustrated and leaves. I don't know because like the more I'm thinking about it now, I keep thinking that maybe the Bayley and Sasha, if they were going to have like a falling out. Apologize for my dog having like a little asthmatic attack back there, but it sounds like Bayley and Sasha for me. If they're, I'm still a little skeptical of this whole tag team thing they have going on. So.
Is it Y2AJ 2.0? Oh, by the way, another Chicago moment. Jericho turned on Styles in Chicago.
There you go. Go ahead. In a way, kind of. I do. I feel like this is a little bit more. I don't know. I think that not that everybody caught on to it too quick, but I think they probably felt like maybe people caught on to where they were going with Sasha and Bayley, or dragging it out. It's always that you never want to give the fans something too soon, and maybe dragging this out to Evolution would be, Evolution is a bigger stage, bigger platform. Imagine having a loser leaves Raw match, on the first ever all women's pay per view. That's an amazing stipulation to put on the match, So maybe but listen, that might not happen at all either. They might go into it. The one thing I noticed is Josh, this is something else. During women's tag team matches, they're definitely making sure they're framing them different. Have you noticed that? Like they're definitely producing them different. So it's like, okay, they're making sure they mention who's starting the match, and look, they're talking about like strategy and stuff. They're treating the tag team matches a lot more like the men's matches, and I think there's a lot of foreshadowing there too.
Yeah, it was really nice to see Ruby Riott back on the show on Monday.
So awesome.
We talked about this a lot. The Riott Squad keep making a name for themselves on these shows for their in-ring work and stuff. And I'll say this. I mentioned this point last week. There's a lot of stuff from both Raw and SmackDown where different storylines are congruing into different other parts of the show as well. Baron Corbin keeps being the measly one himself, getting Stephanie McMahon to piss Kurt Angle off and getting Roman Reigns out of the building and this and that. And that's affecting the Seth Rollins storyline and this and that. It's just, I really feel like there's been a good build-up from a storyline standpoint through both Raw and SmackDown for this pay-per-view. So maybe that's something subtle, things that I look out for. Maybe people are not noticing because there's a lot of repeated matches on the show, and that takes it away from people. But I notice those small things.
Well, I like even the little things with like how Reigns keeps jabbing like Corbin, like you know what I mean. He keeps getting his like jabs. And sooner or later, Corbin's gonna, you know what I mean. It's gonna. Everything always comes full circle, in wrestling. So is that when, does Reigns have the title when it finally happens? So I think there's a lot to, like you said, there's a lot of interchangeable parts, and that's why I love it. I know it drives some people nuts that they call it a universe, but it doesn't drive people nuts when we call it like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and then half the people get wiped out and die. But you know what I mean? Because it's just characters. So that's why the whole universe thing doesn't bother me as much as it used to and or bothers other people. Because I get it. It's just in their universe of characters. But I like in their universe, quote unquote, how characters right now are constantly crossing each other's paths and laying the groundwork for different storylines. It's almost as if we legit are reading a live action comic book. Like it's fucking awesome right now. I'm having trouble seeing why there's like people that are always so like negative about it, because it's like they're like certain things with the Corbin Roman Reigns stuff. Like I could almost like envision it like frame by frame in a comic book. It's amazing to me, but I don't know. And those are two guys that typically I wouldn't be sitting here like praising guys. Like it's a really good thing. That's a really good thing for wrestling or sports entertainment, whatever.
What did you think about the Styles promo on SmackDown? Did you see that?
Yeah, Yeah, I thought it was good. I thought it was real good because it's true. It's true. I mean, that's the one thing I talked about last week is, that's that other layer that we never really saw was about his family and about how much his family means to him and stuff like that. So, and I used to work where I was not on the road as much as them, but if you're working 6 days a week, 16 hours a day, I'm not saying I'm not away that much. You know what I mean? I was always having the fortune of going home and, to my wife and kid every night, even if I didn't get to see them all day. But it's hard, man. It's hard being away from the family as much as, and that grind, I couldn't imagine. So that could be a sensitive spot for any fathers out there. And I think that's why this storyline is good. Because this is more, I think this is going to be a great fun story to watch for the next couple months.
And you always get at least one of the first layers of next year's WrestleMania after SummerSlam.
Always.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a fun week next week. We'll make our predictions for all the matches next week, and we'll go more in depth about it next week. But it was cool to talk about all the different parts from Raw and SmackDown that stood out the most to us. And, of course, I can't forget the added layers to the Becky Lynch character and where she's getting subtly salty about the whole Charlotte being added to the match at SummerSlam. So we'll make all our predictions for the show next week.
Yep. We'll be real SummerSlam heavy next week. We're going to be SummerSlammed. Slapping it up with some gravy.
I have a couple recommendations for you guys to check out. Non-wrestling related as we close out the show this week. Like I said, make sure to check out the Lithium music video award performance they did. I think it was 93 or 92. I think it's one of those years. But check out Lithium, their live performance they did on the MTV Video Awards. Very good.
Oh, my favorite year. It might have been the same year, maybe 93. I think it was either 93 or 94. Beastie Boys doing Sabotage was my favorite MTV Music Awards performance.
Sabotage. Awesome.
I was just playing it live with live instruments and shit. It was awesome.
Oh, if you also need something to make you laugh, and if you have Netflix, go check out The Break. It's been one of my new favorite shows to watch weekly. So check out The Break with Michelle Wolf. It's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah, and it's a good time to catch up too because she's on a little bit of a break for a couple weeks. So it's a good time to catch up on all her old episodes.
And I also just saw they added the most recent Star Wars movie on there, which is crazy how they got it up there that quick. Yeah,
we watched it. I caught it. Did you catch it yet?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you think?
I thought it was fine. Maybe I was expecting a little bit more, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I really don't know.
Bad.
What's that?
I wasn't crazy about it, but I didn't think it was bad either.
No, I definitely didn't think it was bad. It was better than what I thought. So I didn't think it was going to hold my attention, and it did. So that's a good thing. I don't know. I have my issues with Star Wars. Not necessarily issues. It's actually I don't mind the stories. I just don't like Kylo Ren, dude. No, I'll just say it. Now I sound like all the
you don't like the voice?
I don't like his face. I don't know. No. Listen. I think he's a good actor, and he's going to be good in. I heard. I don't want to say he's going to be. I heard he's excellent in Black Klansman. That Spike Lee joint is coming out that Jordan Peele was a part of. I heard he's phenomenal in that. He's too. I don't know. He was great when he was on Saturday Night Live too. Dude's really good, really talented. It used to go from Vader to it's all these Dark Lords, and it's I'm Kylo Ren. He's like the emo version. It's like if Darth Vader went emo. It's like Vader in his emo teenage years, and I just can't deal with it. I don't know, and it's going to be so. I'm one thing I'm glad about is that, and this has been killing my wife, Sam. She's devastated about this. As far as Carrie Fisher passing and not being able to be in the last movie, especially because Episode 9 was supposed to be Carrie Fisher's movie. It was her.
Didn't they say that she's going to be on Episode 9?
Yeah, they're using footage from that they didn't use from I believe from Episode 7. So they're going to they talked to her daughter, Billie Lourd, who's also in the franchise, and so everybody was on the okay with it. It's going to be so bittersweet and odd to see, what happens with that. But yeah, I'm not as down on this trilogy as I thought that most people are. I'm still not I still put it above episodes 1, 2, and 3, but that's neither here nor there. Neither.
I really liked 7. I really liked the one that came out a few years ago, episode 7. I thought that was a really good one. Also, don't forget, as we head out here, Jar Jar was not that bad. Shout out to the guy
I
who
didn't
made
see that sign. Hold on. So real quick, and before we head out, so every once in a while, guys, like I try to write stuff down during the week on like stuff that I want to talk about. So 2 things. And listen, and sometimes if something comes to mind that I feel like I want to talk about, I just write it down. I mean, anybody that, if you write jokes or stories or anything or music or whatever, that you carry a notepad with you, constantly write stuff down. You're always writing stuff down. So anyway, but one thing I wanted to do, and this is a challenge for everybody out there. This is the Pinky Challenge from Pinky Vice.
Yes.
I want this. Listen, we got a lot of shows next week. You got Raw, you got SmackDown, and then we're still going to have another show before them. But you got Raw, you got SmackDown. You're going to have NXT Takeover. You're going to have NXT during the week. You're going to have SummerSlam. We're going to have whatever. Here's my challenge: the Pinky Vice Challenge. Hashtag this with Pinky Challenge. Only live tweet what you like about a show next week for an entire week. No criticisms, just what you like. And when you tweet it, hashtag it with Pinky Challenge. See if you can do it. See if you can go on Twitter during a wrestling show. Now listen, as soon as the show's over, criticize all you want, bitch all you want. But see, while these shows are on, because I don't, but because there's always a need for people to want to live tweet. I want to live tweet because I'm going to, for a week, 1 week, I challenge you. No criticisms, just all positivity. And we'll start that next week, that on Monday. So next week, and hashtag that with Pinky Challenge. Let's see if you can do it. Because chances are you can't. And it's not because the product won't be good. It's because you don't know how to just go on and be like, yo, that was fucking dope. Yeah. And I know I sounded like a 90s like B-boy there, but maybe I was. No, but listen, the second thing that I wrote, I have a couple things written down. And I don't know what this even means, guys. So I apologize. And this totally is nothing wrestling related, like whatsoever. It's just, you guys know that I like to tell jokes every once in a while on here. I don't know why I wrote this down, Josh. I don't know what caused me to write this down. I don't know. I don't remember writing this down. I remember pulling my list and going, oh shit, I don't know. I guess I wrote this down. But I don't know. I thought it was important, I guess, that people know that inception starts in the ball sack. We need to start overturning vasectomies. It's worse than Roe versus Wade. It's like genocide in your testicles. I don't know why that's important, but I feel like that's an important issue, and that's my soapbox to stand on. So in honor of Alex Jones being deleted, I'm going to give you my new, that's my the frogs are gay moment. Alex Jones is a weird dude, man. Like, I'm not, and ending with this. I'm not about anybody like losing their voice. I believe in free speech, absolutely. But you can't walk into a movie theater and yell fire. It's against the law. There's still restrictions on these. There is still restrictions. You absolutely cannot, What burned Alex Jones before anybody out there gets like upset and thinks that all these outlets just pulled him. He was in court. He in court had to differentiate between what he's saying on his shows. Is it a character or is it actually him? Because he's afraid to just show that, well, it's a character, just like that Chris dude and people that don't use their real names. He said no. There's really how I think, and that's why all this stuff got pulled. If he would have said that he was just a character and he's playing a character, none of his stuff would have been pulled. I wouldn't imagine from Apple. Or from, even if Apple would have pulled it, I don't think, YouTube and all the other, because then you could twist it or turn it or whatever. But he's in a big legal battle right now, and he has to take the side of, well, no, that's me 100%. And if that's you, yeah, you can't make up stories that the government was in on a conspiracy to kill a bunch of little kids, like you disgusting fucking human being, you. So, but yeah, I don't know. But I just think, again, but Alex Jones aside, yeah, man, we need to stop. If as men, if we want to tell women that they, and I'm not picking a side on that one. That's for women to decide. But if men are so persistent on overturning Roe versus Wade, well, we need to overturn vasectomies, because we're talking one egg, we're talking like a billion sperm. That's fucking mass genocide. That's I'm not comfortable with that, and I need answers. That's my hill to die on. Let's get after it. It's a tipping point, ladies and gentlemen. Our country's at a tipping point.
Oh, man.
I've been watching too much really bad news lately, like really, really bad, like The Blaze and One American News and Newsmax and shit. Oh my god.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to take the Peaky Challenge.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun, man. Positivity. Put out what you like. We always talk about wanting to make things better, like wanting to make the product better. You know, WWE doesn't know what they're doing. Well, then when they do something, celebrate it. When they do something you like, celebrate it. Instead of being, that was dope, except I would have done it differently like this. Like, no, just celebrate what they do, guys. Like, I mean, this is the time of year where we're supposed to be. It's the second biggest celebration of the year. We have SummerSlam and All In the same damn near, like within 2 weeks of each other. It's almost like a WrestleMania weekend where, you know, let's treat it as such.
You know, we were talking about legal battles. I have another legal battle that I have to talk with my big bro after we're off air. So, with that said, let's get going here, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Josh Lopez. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at NotoriousShashi. That's Adam Daley. Follow Peaky Vice, if you will. Take the Peaky Challenge. Hashtag Peaky Challenge. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Josh Lopez Wrestling Podcast, and bookmark ProWrestlingTranscriptions.com. Shout out to everybody who's a loyal listener to the podcast. Shout out to the good sister Sam, the great niece AJ, everybody, all the good brothers. Also, speaking of good brothers, shout out to Carl Anderson, who had the birth of his fourth son, Chad.
Oh, nice.
So shout out to that good brother. And I'll be busy sleeping away with the G1 for the last weekend of 2018 finally. And next week will be our SummerSlam preview show. So for the Cloud Prince, I'm the notorious Josh Lopez. Remember, folks, you're the director of your life story. Never let anybody impugn your integrity or character. I'm out. Peace.